which is no surprise because everyone loves like the AI sort of conversation. Has been dominating the recruitment space for at least since ChatGPT is the main thing. So here we are. Anyway, we're live, everybody. Welcome to Brainfood Live on Air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. Even Valentine's Day cannot get in the way of Brainfood Live on Air, folks. So all of you lovebirds out here, you're going to have to just like take a break from all of your lovey-dovey shit because you're talking about brain food. This is what's what it's all about. A little bit early in the day for you. I know it's 11 o'clock, should be in the UK right now, maybe 12 o'clock in Europe. Experimenting with shifts of time, also because I'm all in the different time zone as well from everyone. Hopefully this is going to be a useful sort of time zone for you guys to enjoy. Anyway, let's do some sound checks real quick before we do introductions. Just want to make sure you can hear us okay. We've got a bunch of people here on Crowdcast. Can you let me know whether the audio and visual is fine for you on Crowdcast? Just drop a comment in the comment box there. Let me just check on LinkedIn where we're at. Got to do it on my own mobile phone. This is how low-fi we are. LinkedIn. Oh yeah, I see myself. That's good. I actually see Jose actually on his LinkedIn, and we seem to be there, which is great. So there we go. We're on live everywhere. That's good stuff. Okay, cool. Let's get on with the show. Let's welcome firstly for her debut as a co-host on Brainfood Live. It is. Well, I got your name wrong, didn't I? Multiple times. Jessica, Jess something, Jess Chauffeur, right?
Jesse Chauffeur.
Jesse, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you? What is you do?
Thanks for having me, Hung. I'm Jesse, and I am the founder of Stacked, which is the HR tech database. You kind of bring everything together, making it easy to find all the AI and HR tech tools out there because there is a lot on the market. I think everyone knows there's a lot, but really there's a lot. The database has over 300 now. I have a backlog of 650 to get in there. So there's thousands really on the market. So that's what Stack does. We make it easy to find tech, have resources and things like that. Before that, I was in, leadership in the people team. Prior to that, I was in Australia, so I'm Australian. Now I'm in Germany. But before that, I was in the government doing fun projects, things like that. So, about a colourful career, I would say. But I'm really, really obsessed with tech. That's why I'm so excited for today.
It's going to be thrilling. And to be honest with you, you might be looking, I mean, most of the people on the show, just as a caveat, nobody is I'm aware is like a vendor coming on because that would be bad. Not bad, but it's a separate show.
We don't want any of those.
Yeah, the people who are coming on are basically users who've just like hacked together various things. So I want to see from practitioner style what's going on. And then we'll see what's what. But anyway, before we kick off, let's just make sure we have to thank our sponsors, because without our sponsors, Brainfood Live cannot go ahead. Every week, Brainfood is sponsored by a company that wants to say, you know what, we want to support these conversations and make sure they keep on going. And today, it's one of our favorite sponsors. They've been like a regular for the last 3 years or so. It is MetaView, maybe the leading product when it comes to interview intelligence and more. But let me not tell you too much about that because I can see Sile right here. We bring on Sile. He'll tell us all about it himself. There he is. Sile Majos, how are you doing?
I'm good, Hung, and good to meet you, Jesse. Never met before, but yeah, Sile, good to meet you, and pumped to be sponsoring the conversation, and thanks for having me on.
And Sile, you travel more than me, sir. Where are you today? Are you in London? Are you in New York, or where?
No, London, home office. Well, as in the office, which is in London.
How are you coping? I saw you in San Francisco last week, so it looks like MetaView are getting some traction over in the US in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, we've always had a lot of, it's always been pretty 50-50 for us, actually, between EMEA and the US. So yeah, we spend a lot of time there. We have a big, sort of a healthy portion of our team there as well. This is definitely, I think the sort of the movement we're making happen is definitely a global thing, not a local thing. So yeah, definitely US gets a fair amount of our attention too.
Fantastic stuff. Why don't you tell us a bit about MetaView, Sile? As you're on screen, you're the best man to talk about it. So what is it? People who don't know, like, why should they know? Okay.
I've actually got something pretty mind-blowing to share. So I did catch wind of, hey, we'd be bad to have any vendors on. Unfortunately, I am one of those bad vendors. And
you are a sponsor, though. You can get away with it.
Pay to play here. I'm gonna use my opportunity. So sorry for that. So MetaView, if you don't know, is the #1 AI scribe on the market, purpose-built for recruiting. We just launched an amazing new agent, actually, so really topical for this conversation. I'm going to do a very lightning demo of it because it's really fun to see rather than me talk about it. So let me just jump in and do that now. Share, no, not a video. Where's share screen on this? Present my screen. Here we go. We'll take this one. And Hung, if when it's up, if you just say yes, we can see your screen, that would be great.
Yep, see it.
Cool. So very quickly, MetaView, as I mentioned, is an AI scribe. That means we capture all the key recruiting conversations and save recruiters and hiring managers a ton of time and make them way more confident about their hiring decisions. Last week, we've launched open to early access a new product called AI Job Posts. You can think of AI Job Posts as an agent, an ever vigilant AI co-worker that just obsesses about keeping your job posts dynamic, compliant, consistent, and really that bring your company to life. So I want to show you this product really quickly. There's three things it's great at. The first is, job posts are often, frankly, pretty laborious to put together. So a lot of the time, you as a recruiter or maybe the hiring manager will spend a couple of hours doing it. With MetaView, because we have access to often the intake or the role kickoff conversations, plus we have access to all of your existing job posts, we can do a really good job at just automatically producing a job post for you based on the intake call. So literally this job post that you see on your screen now, this was just automatically generated off the back of an intake call. I didn't have to do a thing. Now, what's really cool about this is on the left-hand side, I also have a bunch of checks, right? Because much as MetaView's done a good job articulating the role, there are some things that, maybe aren't going to come up in a conversation, but that we know as an organization are important that we want to apply to our job posts. So I can actually say to MetaView, can you run a bunch of checks on this job post just to make sure that it's actually got a company overview, all the responsibilities and all those things? It did that in just seconds. But I can also make it a better job post by asking MetaView to run more intelligent checks. So in this case, I've asked MetaView to run a behaviors over traits check, which is something that is really important to our company, that when we're articulating what we're looking for in a candidate, we're not saying you have this characteristic or this trait, but that you've exhibited this behavior. And it's come up with a few suggestions here where rather than saying you're fiercely ambitious, maybe we say you set challenging goals and consistently seek new opportunities, which I think is a great suggestion. So I'm going to accept that. The thing that makes this so that's sort of step one. It's automatic. You automatically get the job post, and then you can automatically run these checks across your whole portfolio of job posts. But it's also customizable. And so if I jump back to the job post now, maybe when it comes to the company overview, I don't just want MetaView's generic check of, hey, do we have a company overview in here? I actually want to tell MetaView's AI what our company overview, sort of the type of elements it should include. So essentially, this is a framework for you to apply prompts across your job descriptions at scale and have our AI agent essentially constantly checking any job post in your company that gets created matches up against the things that you want. So this is not a sort of a generic, hey, yeah, this looks good from, maybe what's considered best practice in the industry at large. You can actually customize the AI to look for certain things within your job posts just by using a natural language prompt underneath these checks. So each of these you can edit to exactly what you want them to do, essentially telling the AI what you want it to check. The last and most magical thing about this is that it's dynamic. So a lot of the times you'll start working on a rec. Actually, you'll learn a lot in your first few interactions with candidates about something that maybe you should change about what you're looking for. And that very rarely makes its way through to the job description, which stays as a sort of out-of-date artifact. So what's really amazing about MetaView is about AI job posts on MetaView is we also harness the data from your downstream conversations. So in this case, you'll see there's a requirement here saying for this engineer, they have experience or you'll be implementing isomorphic SPA functionality with SSR capabilities. French to me, but that doesn't matter. The point is what MetaView has identified is that in recent technical interview rounds, it's clear that this requirement is out of date. So as a recruiter, I'd have no idea about this, but actually because MetaView is in my interviews too, it's picking up on things that are now either out of date or could be improved within my job description. And it's doing that automatically and across all job descriptions in my portfolio, which if you're a growing company could be dozens or even hundreds out there that are just getting, decaying and getting out of date every day. So super excited about this product. Thanks for bearing with me on the demo. It's open to early access now. So if you head over to MetaView and head over to the AI job post part of the website, you can join the waitlist. Strongly recommend you get on sooner rather than later. And yeah, that's what we're doing in the agentic AI realm right now.
Very, very interesting, Sile. Folks, share a link into the chat stream there so people can actually get into it. Free to get in, I think, free to use even, I think, at the beginning and also on the wait list for this product. That sounds very interesting. I have a question for you on the loop back with the interviews, because I think that was the aha moment for me when I saw that. I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, how do you know, though, like what interviews are accepted? So for instance, let's say there's inconsistency in the interview, you got different hiring managers asking different things and may have different requirements. Like, how does the system understand that actually, yeah, we would want to accept hiring manager A's perspective, but not hiring manager B's?
Well, importantly, I was the one doing the accepting and rejecting. So I think the question, maybe the sort of, so the AI never accepts or rejects suggestions. That's always the human that does it. But of course, the AI is responsible for making suggestions. So you still have like hey, where's the intelligent? How do we make sure it makes intelligent suggestions? There's two parts of that. One is just, frankly, our secret sauce of having tested this a bunch with like, how do we make sure it's, getting those suggestions right, a good portion of the time. But the second thing is that it's always learning. So when you start to use the product, you'll see there's essentially very similar to, you'll see these reasoning paths that a lot of these maybe like deep research products, or, a lot of the agentic AI that you're seeing from other companies, you see the reasoning paths. You essentially have this longitudinal learning path that the AI has, where it sees what was rejected previously as a recommendation, sees what was accepted, sees what was changed, and uses that to become much more personalized to your company as well, or even to you as a recruiter. So essentially, it gets smarter over time. You rely on almost like our default intelligence to start with, and you've got to believe that we've done a good job in making sure it's picking out relevant things. But actually, you'll have the ability to make it smarter and smarter.
Really interesting. I mean, I also think that you could pick up inconsistencies. I mean, MetaView does that well anyway, but it'd be very interesting to see, let's say, if different recruiters say yes or no to things. That's information I need to know.
Totally. And actually the other way around as well, right? It could be that you get a suggestion, hey, we should probably change this in the JD. And maybe your realization is, no, we shouldn't. We shouldn't be interviewing about that thing. What's going on over there? So it's actually there. Obviously, it's a bi-directional thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Really interesting. Jesse, I hope that MetaView is in your database. I mean,
they
credibility
are, and
lacking
they're verified. No, it's in and they're verified. So you can also find MetaView on Stacked. And I actually have a question about the tool as well. So if it's, oh, now I've lost the question, but it will come back to me.
I won't be here, unfortunately, because you're not allowing vendors on the.
Damn, but I had a question and then it just left from my brain. No,
don't worry. That we need Jesse AI to step in and
Jesse AI has
to. There'll be another
coffee,
way
maybe.
to do it. But listen, Sarah, let me let you go. Wonderful to see the product. And again, the innovation rate at MetaView has been one of the most spectacular things. It's another thing I think people need to think about when they are engaging with vendors. Like, what is the innovation rate? Because you want to see a product that's constantly evolving and constantly surprising and delighting you. And I think MetaView have done that multiple times. So even in the chat, we can see some loads of people saying you got to use this. So, all right, folks, get into it. Sal, wonderful to see you. We'll catch up with you soon, man.
Thanks so much, folks. Looking forward to the combo. See you.
Cool. Very, very cool category. Very cool product as well. So, by the way, if the question does come back to you, just pop that in. Sam may still be here. If not, we'll be able to catch hold of him in another place. Okay, folks, before we get into the demos, today's going to be demos sort of story, but we need to review the newsletter real quick, Jess. So why don't we do that real quick? Did you read it last week? If so, can you pick out 2-3 things that were interesting for you, and then we'll see what's what. Oh, by the way, quick one for Sile. The waitlist button has an error. That's very interesting and important. So please do check that out. Someone verify whether that's true or not, and if so, hopefully the guys at MetaView will be able to fix that. Okay, let's go to the newsletter. What was interesting, Jesse?
So newsletter. Well, firstly, what's interesting is that I love your overview. So I always love your newsletter. It's really great. First thing I liked about it was reading about super agency, the word super agency, because it actually like encapsulates everything that's going on with AI. And I found there was a McKinsey report that I read that was linked, 92% plan to spend more in Gen AI in the next 3 years, which I found really interesting, that 92% of companies now, because I think if we look at previously, there was a lot of people like interested, but 92% is very, very high. So I think it's showing that, business needs to get onto the training and the policies and how they're going to work with AI in business, not just say they're going to invest in it. Second thing I found interesting was, of course, the buzz right now, like Anthropic not having AI in their application job process. I found that interesting because I actually agree with it. As much as I love AI, I think that humans still need to have the human side of them shown, and I think that it shows that AI is an aid to humans and it doesn't replace humans, and we should be really careful about how we bring that into assessment of someone's skills. I think they can be brought into the picture, but I think also you without AI is also important to know. So I
Let
found
me
that
stop you
interesting
there,
to read.
I think that's a really interesting conversation because, folks, did you hear about this? Where Anthropic, one of the leading AI foundational products out there, they were kind of exposed by saying in their own job descriptions, please don't use artificial intelligence to apply. And a lot of people kind of gone online to say, hey, isn't that hypocritical? Because here you have an AI-based business telling people not to use AI to apply. But as you say, Jess, I think there's a legitimate reason for this. It's like we don't want. It's hard to juggle because, firstly, like, do we just want a vehicle for AI? Is a human being just a button pusher for AI? In which case, why am I even hiring the human being? Or do I want some kind of thing, some skills, some traits, something that's going to help me build my business? And the AI is kind of, I wouldn't say a secondary concern, but it's a tool or an outcome that person needs to use. So I think there's a philosophical debate to be had on whether we should have a policy on there. So yeah, I didn't find them hypocritical either. I think they've got a strong argument.
I think it's good. I think they should hold the line because it is going to get messy if you start. I think it's important that there's consistency across it, right? If I'm not allowed to use AI in the process, then no one should be. So we're all assessed in a similar way. We're assessed on us as a human and whatever without the AI. And there could be, assessment where they bring it in and they say, okay, now we're going to use AI for this component, and everyone has the same chance to do the same assessment with AI as well. But I think saying that, hey, we don't want to use it and we just want to know you as a person, like, why is that a bad thing? We're so worried about AI taking over humans, and now a company's like, hey guys, we're just going to assess people as they are without AI, and everyone's like freaking out. I'm like, why? It's good.
Yeah, and Tony, we'll have a discussion on this, not today, but in another sort of session. I think it's a really interesting one to debate philosophically on it, but a good one as well. And there is a Jesse Tinsley on LinkedIn is saying Jesse AI is here. So Jesse, by the way, is like a very well funded sort of entrepreneur. Is probably busy building a Jesse AI right now. Let's go and buy the domain. Somebody is going to be worth something. All right, give us one more, Jess, and then we'll get on with bringing some of these guys on.
So what also I liked reading about was the deep research. From OpenAI, I think that's really cool. It's starting to bring together this super agency idea. It was just boggled my mind reading about what it did and seeing what it did. I just feel like it brings the future closer. Like, that's all it did for me. I was just like, I can't even look at this because it's almost too soon that it's so good, and it starts to be like, what are we going to be in 2 years from now? Like, that boggled my mind.
Yeah,
That was
I think
fun.
so. I mean, and Ethan Mollick, by the way, is such a brilliant writer and commentator on the world of AI. I recommend everyone follow him on X. He's really good. Appreciate people don't want to be on X, but he does also do a Substack. And there's even like people who are founding AI models will refer to Ethan and say, actually, this guy's explained it better than anybody. So just, you got to follow him. He's like a must follow person if you're interested in future work. He's very, very interesting. And by the way, Tony, Ethan has your policy. He says actually people should be using it, but in a guided way. So there's some caveats to that. All right, listen, let's bring some people on. Folks, we've got an absolute massive number of people that want to come on here. And the reason why is because I've briefed the audience or the panelists to say, you know what, have you done anything with Agentic AI that you think is Agentic AI? If so, come on screen and show us what you think is Agentic AI, and let's see what's what. So let's bring a few people on. Tony, he's very active. I think he's very annoyed somehow. Let's bring him on firstly, just to make sure.
We said something
I don't
already.
know. I have no
He's
idea
disagreed.
whether that's the case. Guys, we're going to go one by one simply because it's going to take, we're going to be kind of roll on, roll off. That's the policy, okay? Otherwise, it's going to be out of control. Maybe towards the end, we bring everyone together, have a bit of discussion. But I want to give everyone some space to speak. So there he is. Tony Graff, the man with the most magnificent hair ever appear on Brainfood Live. Look at the bonnet on this guy. Incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
I try to maintain, especially for you. We're just doing my hair.
Admire Tony DeGrasse follicles. That's ridiculous. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Tony, wonderful to see you.
One quick point, because I can't demo because OpenAI sent me an email. They pulled Operator away from me because I accessed Operator through VPN from Europe, and you're not allowed to. So I played around with it, and they cut my access. And I sent it to you in a message. I was literally just trying to say it, and you pull me on the stage as first. But you can kick me off if you want to see demos.
Yeah, you're out. You're out. Go and wash your hair, Tony. I know. Yeah, it's all good. Let's introduce you. Who are you, Tony? What do you do, mate?
Yeah, so I'm Tony de Graaf. I live in Italy, Tuscany, between Florence and Siena, but I'm Dutch originally. What I do, I'm a TA strategy consultant. I try to punch a dent in the world of TA because I believe we can do so much better, right? And my fundamental belief is that I genuinely believe that every company on the planet should have access to the people they need. And the other side of the medal, I genuinely believe that every person on the planet should have the job that suits their lifestyle. Even if you are a developer mom with 3 kids in Brazil, you should be able to work for the greatest companies and do great stuff, right? And I try to solve bringing together that supply and demand. I did that as recruiter. That's my background. I did that as strategy consultant working for Smart Recruiters. And now I left Smart Recruiters in Q3, 4, something like that last year, building up my own strategy consulting practice. I'm still in the building phase, so I don't have any link to share yet. It's called the Recruiting Excellence Methodology, and it will be launched in a couple of weeks. And then hopefully I can work with TA teams around the world, which is what I love to do, from Australia, New Zealand, Dubai, Americas, Europe, and improve TA.
Fantastic stuff. Follow Tony DeGraaf. I've shared his LinkedIn in the chat. Okay, listen, you've had a play with Operator, and even before we kind of Operator emerged, we were talking a little bit about this. Can you give us a statement as to where you think we're at with AI? The title is AI Agents. Are they here? Yes, no? And if so, what are the use cases? How have you used it?
Yeah. So I've seen multiple operators in the last year. The operator of ChatGPT is the first one that really blew my mind. And why specifically this one is the ease of use. I think developers had this epiphany moment before myself, because I'm not a developer. When you hear the words like low code or no code, that they can just talk to an AI and it would understand and code it for you. You don't actually need to understand fully the code. And now for the first, and I didn't really understand that because I'm simply not a developer. I could not imagine the incredible impact of it. And now playing with Operator, and I did this with Adam Gordon, because I was sending him an Operator message, and then he just sent back a planning link, like his own Calendly kind of thing. And I literally just asked the Operator, go check my LinkedIn if Adam has responded, and if he did, please plan an appointment for the earliest moment on Friday or next week Monday. And it went to LinkedIn, it went to my messages, it found Adam, it saw the Calendly link, it understood it needed to click that, it went there. The time zones were off because they were, of course, in San Francisco, because that's where the operator is accessing the internet from. It changed the time zones because I never told it anything. It knew I was in Europe. It selected the time and booked in the appointment, and then went back to LinkedIn to confirm a message back to Adam. And I just asked it, is there a message, and go do it. So what really blew my mind is that you do not need to engage with AI anymore, really explaining in granular detail what it needs to do. It can navigate and it can figure out what to do on websites and all these other things. And I think that was the thing that really got me excited and kind of sparked that entire discussion on the Brainfood Facebook group a couple of weeks ago. So I think that is going to be the revolutionary thing, so that now people who have no knowledge of programming or deep knowledge of how AIs and these models work. The agents, for me, will be the layer that normal people that have basic computer knowledge can use AI, can program, can build tools, can build agents and automate stuff. That is the moment that connected in my brain.
Really interesting. And just for people's knowledge, my kind of understanding of what operator really does is that it basically allows it enables it to take over a browser, basically. Whatever you do in a web browser today, the agent is able to do it. So therefore, booking appointments, sorting out your hair appointment, whatever. Sorry about your hair, Tony. It was just, I'm jealous. But it basically can do the things that you're doing, clicking on a website, essentially. Now, you imagine the use case there for a recruiter. That's crazy. Because how much of recruiting is currently all web-based? Is like almost all of it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Listen, Tony, really good use case. Before we let you go, can you give us a couple of other use cases that you can see when you get your access restored? What is the ways that you're thinking? Actually, this is optimal for recruitment use case using an operator.
Well, yeah, I love the MetaView example just now. What I envision is we're starting to connect all these steps in the recruiting process. So doing a job intake meeting, understanding and advising what skills and competencies and behaviors are actually needed, then creating that job advertising, maybe an approval process, then actually be able to post it at the right platforms because it knows what type of job performed where in the best possible way, and do active sourcing and do the first screening and propose that directly back to the hiring manager. And not only that, the skills and competencies required, the interviews team, so it can actually prepare interview kits, right? Structured scorecards, so you can do structured interviewing, sample questions. How do you actually assess a certain behavior like assertiveness or problem solving and whatnot? And then summarizing that to actually support a hiring decision meeting. So what I see is that I think what will start to happen is that those individual steps will be automated by incredible tools. But I think people are starting to realize that we can start to connect these things together. And that's where the real magic happens. And then I think a recruiter can go 100x in terms of productivity. Jesse wants to say something. I see it on
Yeah,
her
no, I
face.
want to ask you something. I was just thinking, because yesterday I spoke to a company and they're building an AI agent, and it does, the intake, the question interview brief. Well, let's call it interview brief with the hiring manager. And it goes and does that, it can do like multiple at a time, right? Because there's only, if there's one person doing a call, you can only do one call. But if you're an AI agent, you can do 10 at a time, right? So it does the intake, it asks questions, it kind of goes back and forth, captures everything, creates the job description, does all this stuff, right? Similar to like what MetaView does, creates the job description, How far do you think it can go before a human, like where does the human interaction need to stay, in your opinion? Like where do you think we need to be careful along that journey, that there's the hiring manager and there's the agent, but like where's the quality assurance check that we need to have with the human? Where's the human optimizing part that we need to keep in the process? That's the question I'm always asking myself when I see this stuff, because I love it, but I'm like, that's the bit I think we have to design. Like where is the human going to remain, and how can we use the human better? How can we use us better in that whole process? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a very good question. For me, it's not so much about the actual process or the steps that we execute. Like if we are actually, let's say the three of us want to hire an extra human to our team, what's the point, right? That we actually have the right human and actually click with that, right? So I would reverse engineer it from the entire point of that entire recruiting process is to make sure we have the right person added to this mix of completely different people, right? So those points will be very important. So that will always revolve around some form of interview. Does the interview in the very far future still need to be very much about capabilities? If we can trust and build really strong test assessments and all these other things, then maybe that is less required of the actual interview. So I think maybe the nature of it will change. But at the end of the day, it is a capability match and a human match.
Oh, did I kill
We
him?
lost him.
I didn't kick him. I didn't kick him out, but he was talking too much anyway, Tony. So see you later. That's okay. We'll move on. Johannes, I've invited you on. Let's go. He's still here. Sorry, Tony. And go and enjoy Tuscany, bro. But
Computer
no,
says no,
great to have
sorry.
Tony. Great to have Tony DeGraff on the show as usual. What a very smart individual, and I really look forward to his experimentations. I think it's great that we have like consultants out there doing this, because people who are operators really struggle to do so. Simply because we're crushed under all of this workload. Johannes, I kind of see you, but I kind of don't. Maybe the camera needs fiddling. There we go. How are you doing, sir? Oh, the audio is not on though. Can you have a quick check to see whether the audio can come on? He's not muted here. No. So I'm going to unmute him. Let's see what happens here, even though I was not muted before. No, Johannes, I don't think we can hear you for some reason. Yeah, maybe you want to just, can you refresh the browser, just come back in? Let's see what happens. Yeah, okay, no worries. Don't worry, by the way, folks, we will get loads of people on board. So Shimao, Bill, Jose, all of you guys will come on as well. Everyone's gonna get their shot, even if we do run a little bit over time. I'm conscious of it, but I want to make sure everyone has time and we're not just like arguing over sort of a space on screen. Okay, let's try and invite Johannes back, and fingers crossed this works. And we'll see where we go. Yeah, Amanda, really good point. Compliance, where are we with that? I mean, to be honest with you, even the compliance argument is up in the air. We have like, AI full bore going forward in the US. So what does all that mean? I have a feeling we still have muted Johannes. Johannes, can you hear us? He can hear us. You can see him perfect, but for some reason we can't hear him. I wonder, is there anything we can do with that? Maybe pull out the earphones, try something like that, Johannes. I wonder whether there's something that's just weird that's not going on. No, that's no good. Okay, that's really disappointing. Okay, Johannes, I don't know what's going on, man, but I wonder whether maybe you can try another browser or something, and we'll bring you back on, but we'll keep cycling through. Let me know when you've maybe switched the browser off, and we change the browser, and we'll get someone else on. So, okay, sorry about that, folks. We're going to get Johannes on. I'm determined about that. He's got some really good experimentation to share. But let's bring on Jose. And we'll see Jose Cadlet, see what he's got to say about this world. The compliance issue, we will deal with that at another time. I don't think it's possible really for us to spend too much time on compliance today, simply because probably a lot of it is uncompliant. I mean, you go, and who are we compliant to,
Like, if you're
compliant to the
honest,
EU,
we
maybe?
shouldn't be doing just stop working with it.
Yeah.
No, it is
Exactly,
a very
yeah.
valid point.
It's a default. Okay, are we having struggle getting more people on screen here? What's going
What's
on?
going on with Crowdcast?
I don't know. It takes a while, but maybe Jose will come on soon. No, I tell you what, something's so odd, isn't it? Because Tony was booted off unnaturally, so to say.
AI
and
has
now we're
taken
struggling.
over, and it's like you not happy with us.
Maybe the powers that be have decided actually we want to keep all of this stuff under wraps and not do anything. Let's try Jose again. I think he is. Where is he? Okay, try one more time. I will invite you on screen, main stage. We'll just be patient. I'll stop clicking around, and hopefully we'll get people on. But yeah, sort of agentic AI, super fascinating. None of us in Europe have officially got a sort of the opportunity to play with it. That is itself a problem, I think, because suddenly you're going to get a situation where there's like basically a caste system as to who has access to AI or not. And that's a concern. We probably want to get to a place where actually everyone is simultaneously able to access artificial intelligence at the frontier without sort of being gatekept by any particular person, one or the other. So yes, let's see how we go. fingers crossed for Jose. I think that basically my hopes are starting to fade. It's loading. Yes, he's trying another browser. That's okay. It's normal. This is live stream. Sorry, folks. Bear with us. Jesse's going to tell us a joke in a bit, and keep us all entertained. You're on mute. I mean, that's entertaining, but no. Even Jesse decided
Staying
not to
on mute.
speak.
Staying on mute is fine. I've got no good jokes. No one wants to hear anything. Probably like bad dad
No,
jokes. That's all I've got.
bad dad. Yeah, it's loading. I think basically it's having a freak out, so it's basically crowdcast more than anything. So, okay, don't mind.
Try Johannes
Let's keep
again.
going.
He said try him again. He's switched.
All right, Johannes, you're coming on main stage. He's probably on something terrible like Safari or something, and it'll work. So, we'll see. All right, folks. Oh, by the way, whilst we're at it, if you're watching this on Crowdcast, do you want to check out the poll on the right-hand side of the sidebar? Go check that out and see what your thoughts are. Is AI agents happening? Yes, no, maybe. Give us a vote on the poll on the right-hand side here, folks. Okay, we have Johannes here. Hopefully the audio we have as well. Say something,
Is
Johannes.
it working?
Save us.
Yes. It's working.
Tell us the name of the browser. The browser needs respect.
It's the good old Safari. So I switched to
It
the
is Safari.
traditional.
There we go.
Yeah.
Respect. Chrome,
Yeah.
shame on you. Most popular browser in the world,
Exactly.
just loaded with bloatware. Okay, Johannes, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yep. So the quick introduction is that I'm Johannes. I'm a people director at a gaming company called Avalanche Studios. I work 80% there, 20% I devote my time to helping companies with AI, and that's just by sheer coincidence more than anything. I'm curious, and that's why this happened. Like I'm an HR guy by nature, so yeah, but very curious and obviously very interested in this topic.
You're an unusual HR guy because you are still an operator as a HR guy, but you've dove into this and you've been one of the most important commentators in our field as a practitioner still. So again, people should follow Johannes if you want to keep updated on this. LinkedIn is shared in the chat stream there. Okay, tell us about AI agents, real or not? Where are we with it, and what have you experimented with?
No, so I've experimented a lot, and I can share that as well. Like I have links that you can try as well. But so my main point of view with agents in general is that I see the value. I truly do. Like they are fantastic. Like and the things to Tony's point, like I've built stuff. I built an ATS. When you myself, like I can't code a single line of code. I can at best code a website that was popular or trendy in 1998. But that's about it. But still, with these sort of no code tools, I've been able to build my own ATS and hooked it up to an agentic-like system. Like one can argue what is agentic or not, but where you basically, when you apply, you get a call. So an AI recruiter calls you and takes your details, basically. And I can share the link. It's operational. It's quite it's very in beta mode. So you have to stick or take it for what it is. But you could build stuff like that, and just it's cool. But also what's the real economic value here? I think it will take a while for organizations to catch up on this, basically.
No, but these experiments are really interesting because it shows what can be done. And the concept that you've just described here, that you as a non-technical person built an ATS that can do automated calls for applicants, that's crazy level of performance. That's unthinkable for anybody, even for a team of coders. You wouldn't be able to do this back in the day, but here we go. So, okay, job track. Yeah, it's in there. Go and check it out, folks. Yeah. What else have you tried? I mean, tell me about, actually, you mentioned agentic. What is or is not agentic? What is your definition? The semantics are important. I don't want to get bogged down in it, but I'd like to know where you think we're at right now.
No, but so, I mean, for me, the semantics are important because everyone is now saying we have agentic systems. But for me, an agentic system is something that can operate independently. You give it a task and it fulfills that task without you having to intervene in between. And I think there's a lot of agentic-like systems, but the fully autonomous systems, yes, they are to some extent happening, but it still requires quite a lot of human intervention. And Operator is an example. Tony and I, we have Tony's operator has talked to my operator on LinkedIn, for example, and that requires a lot of intervention still. Like it's fully possible that they can talk to each other, but it still requires both me and Tony to intervene quite a lot on that as well. So I think a lot of people slap agents on their systems because it's trendy and that's like the hype and bustle in town basically. But I would say still that it has a bit, like it has quite a long bit to go actually before I think there are fully truly agentic that can work independently. But I mean the trend is super clear. Like it will happen for sure. I can't see it in any other way, shape, or form.
And Johanna, it's really interesting that you built your own ATS. I just had to click on it. It looks pretty cool. I'm gonna have to play around after this. But so this is, you've just gone in, you've done it, like you said, low technical skill. What do you think that means for business? Does that mean that we're going to start seeing people be like, we're not going to buy traditional SaaS products anymore. We're not going to even buy the agents that are out there. We're actually going to just like in-house some of that and just custom for us because it's so accessible now. Is that what you think is going to happen? Like, where do you think this is going to go?
I think so. Like that's my belief at least. Like so, this is a double agentic sort of trial, I would say, because building the system, then I talk to an agent, basically a coding agent. So this is a non-technical tool at all. Like I just described, I want an ATS, and the system said, okay, how do you want that to look? And I want it to look this way. How do you want it to function? I want this, and I want the backend. Okay, I'll build that for you. So I think like there's still a market for ATSs, for example, or SaaS platforms, I think. But yeah, they have to be really good and provide real tangible value. Because I mean, like if you look beyond the time, because this took a while, so obviously I invested my time. But if you look at the actual cost for this tool, it's less than $30. The ATS I built that for less than $30. So, and obviously it's not a full-fledged ATS, but it's still like it says something about the cost for these systems. They will dramatically decrease. I can't see it in any way, shape, or form.
I think there's a concept here where there's going to be a lot of like DIY type tool making that will never be commercialized, but you're going to make tools for your own use and it's going to be useful, but you're never going to use it for anyone else. And you know what? That's probably good enough for most people.
Yeah.
It needs to be exceptional for it ever to be a marketable product. So the quality of software will improve. And you can imagine maybe there's proprietary data that a future ATS type will be able to bring into play that you don't have access to. It's going to be obviously super scaled. Compliance, I think, will be a barrier, obviously. So as you get into a bigger company, you're not going to be able to deploy your own tech and stuff like this. But yeah, the world where we're going to be having lots more product builders, I think, is already here. So Johannes, I'm sure you know a product called Replit, which is a kind of basically an app maker. That's like charging forward. You have a DeepSeek. You have open source AI now. People are literally taking this and saying, I've got it on my phone as an AI on the go device, sort of off cloud. It's like crazy. So we've got a massive distribution of product building capability. To suppress demand for software, maybe. But I wonder it will kind of be a good enough thing, and then once you really get serious, you're probably going to have to upgrade to something that needs to be bought, basically.
Absolutely, and I built this in Replit as well. The whole system I built that in Replit. But I mean, there's Lovable, there's Cursor. Like there's so many systems that are going after this sort of agentic code market at the same time. So yeah, but super interesting.
Give us a 6-month timeline. Where are we, Johannes? End of this year, let's say. Where do you think we're going to be with AI and agentic AI?
It's so hard to say, but I would say that I would imagine most companies are starting to play with agentic AI during the spring and then fully implement and have real use cases, especially like if Copilot Studio, which is sort of Microsoft Play on the agentic side, if they tweak it a bit on the UX side, because it's quite wonky right now on the UX side. But if they figure that out, which I think they will do this, upcoming 6 months, then we could see like real tangible economic benefits from having sort of agentic-like capabilities in the organization by the end of this year.
Yeah, really interesting. And by the way, the DIY sort of approach, there's a vast majority of ATSs are still spreadsheets, so we've been DIYing it forever. We're just gonna get better with it with that. So
yeah,
cool. All right, Johannes, listen, let me let
Yeah.
you go. If we've got time, we'll
Yeah.
bring you back in and we'll have a
Of
group
course.
discussion. We've got to keep rolling
Yeah.
forward. Thanks for persevering with the browser switch as well. Great stuff. Johannes Sundlo there. By the way, everyone else who's kind of on panel looking to get on, can you switch to just at least have Safari ready to go? Or some other sort of browser other than Chrome, because I think that might be useful. Let's bring on Jose Cadlets. He's going to show us a few things. Whilst we kind of bring Jose on, I just want to take a moment to make sure that Brainfood Live is a place where people can connect and learn more and carry on the conversation. We do have to come off air in a couple of minutes, not in a couple of minutes, but at least half an hour. But we will come off air shortly. We shouldn't be in a situation where this is a conversation starting and not a conversation stopping show. So take a moment, grab your LinkedIn URL, share it in the chat stream, folks, and make sure you connect with everyone else who's done the same. 100 plus people watching us on Crowdcast, many hundreds more watching it on LinkedIn. Just do the same on LinkedIn. Add your LinkedIn in the comment thread, then just connect with everyone else who's done the same. Bottom line, you're going to walk away with 100 plus connections that care about AI, agentic AI in recruiting. That's going to help your knowledge going forward. And as a matter of fact, one of my pet theories is that your network knowledge, your ability to access collective intelligence is one of the most important things that you can achieve as a professional today in the world of artificial intelligence. Anyway, Jose, great to see you, sir. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Hank. Currently, I'm a former software engineer back then, but it's really great because of AI, as you mentioned, like Replit, Cursor, etc. It's now so easy to go back into software engineering. So I'm doing some of our agent actually myself. But currently, behind me there is a company, Good Call. We are RPO house. Talent sourcing house, yeah, we celebrated 10 years on the market, something like 130 employees. And we don't plan to hire anymore. Yeah, we actually plan to maybe sustain the number. And we are currently, due to AI, and we can call it AI agents, even if sometimes it's not super correctly, as Johannes mentions as well. But it's actually, I think it's actually possible.
So you're basically not you've hit the ceiling in terms of headcount because you feel that AI is going to be able to basically build more capacity for the existing staff that you have.
Yeah, totally. I think as you were discussing about, for example, OpenAI operator, I was giving some tips here to some, let's say, cheaper versions of the operator, but I don't think that operator will even help us, for example, here at our company much currently, because it's great. You can see examples like, hey, buy the book on Amazon and so on. It's kind of pretty straightforward scenarios, kind of like cherry picking. But if you want, for example, to go to LinkedIn and do some proper sourcing, yeah, it's not that ideal. Yeah, so basically imagine that behind operator or behind, I can recommend, for example, convergence.ai. Anyone can try it right now, convergence.ai. It's basically free, almost free. You can try it for free operator, where you can do these things, but it's basically doing just screenshot, sending that to LLM where there is the reasoning process, and finally it's doing the actions like with mouse and so on. But in talent sourcing, where you are, for example, really dependent on external sources, one thing is that you have your own ATS, you have data there, you can do matching, whatever kind of candidate matching you want to do, but how to get, for example, data from LinkedIn, GitHub, Facebook, etc. You need to involve scraping, and now there is a problem, legislation, etc., etc. It's of course possible, like, to work with that, but there are these problems which are, let's say, making the faster implementation, difficult.
Right, interesting. So my understanding of what you've just said there, Jose, is that, look, these things exist. There's alternatives to sort of OpenAI, but there's still friction in the sense that, firstly, there's a compliance problem. If to get optimal usage, compliance problem, which, we scrape the internet, but we do it as a human being, and that's legal to do, right? So if I jump on a website and I scribble down a bunch of data from there on a pen and paper, it's kind of scraping. It's just a very brutal way of doing it, but that's legal. So when you automate it, that's when people start saying, look, you can't do this, or they can block it. So we've got to be careful as to what can be done. What other things do you see is currently in the way, and what other things are not in the way in terms of use cases where you can say, actually, this has actually worked for us, and we've changed our method as a result of developments that have occurred?
Yeah, of course, these operators and whatever, it's basically, imagine like LLM like 1 year ago before advanced mode. Yeah, then we got the advanced voice mode, I mean the voice mode, etc. It's still the same LLM sort of saying behind that, but it's more seamless to communicate with. You got the app, you got the desktop app for OpenAI, for example. An operator, it's just the next stage, but the brain behind it is still the same. So imagine that you will say, go to linkedin.com. When you open linkedin.com, you got 3 sign-in buttons, and the reasoning model had to decide like which button is the correct one, and then you go further. Yeah? So sometimes, for example, we are now within our AI stack building the AI agents for create the JD, yeah, or for example, we use MetaView as well, and then with the MetaView data, we can do some other things within our database, for example. Yeah, so for each steps, you got these things. For talent sourcing, for example, we are creating. It's basically, let's say, smarter AI-powered search. If you got LinkedIn Recruiter, you got an AI-powered search there. This is basically a smarter version of that. So. Because, for example, the LinkedIn Recruiter version, it's not about price, but it's about the capability. The AI powered search in LinkedIn, it cannot do things like, for example, give me manufacturing companies around London and then do the search. Yeah, give me things based on these things. It cannot properly do these more complex things. And as you know, for example, talent sourcing, when I'm looking for accountant, I can do it by job title. I can do it by past job title. I can do it by companies. I can do it by industries. I can do it by keywords. Yeah, just the methodology behind that, which if we got some new joiners coming here, they need to absorb all of this to imagine that we are doing sourcing on the markets with almost the lowest unemployment rate in the whole world. They're around 2%, long-term lowest in the EU, something like third or fourth lowest in the world. So our sources must be in general better. They must be really exhaustive how they do the searching. And this generalization, the operator and the AI powered search, it's everything is too generic, and then it's not good enough for the use case. So you need to plug in into the process. For example, this, let's say, semi AI agent for sourcing, you need to plug in there some specifics. If you are looking for the role with, for example, English requirement, don't use the English as the requirement, because a human sourcer would not do that because it's hurting your search, for example. So there are these practical things which LLM, from how it works, cannot properly learn because it's not properly written anywhere on the internet. And as we search on LinkedIn, it's not, there is no, LinkedIn of course got some logs from that, but we cannot use these logs to make our like LLM more let's say powerful, more knowledgeable. Yeah, so that's why I call it like semi-agent, because it's creating you the searches. On free LinkedIn, it can be like really a link. So you put JD and you just click on links and you communicate as with a chatbot. That's the great capability about using AI, that you can create it quickly and that it can talk to you as a human being. But of course, it's missing. If it's like a relay agent, it would be doing also the evaluation. If you click on the link, you would see, you got 100 results, and it would be deciding something from that. But it cannot do that. But still, even this semi-agent can replace sourcers, for example, at our company already. Yeah, so it doesn't need to be like fully autonomous operator.
Yeah, I think I get it. Thank you, Jose. So just a quick recap. Essentially, your position is, look, we cannot really call them agents as in the sense that they're fully autonomous and they're not a co-worker. But what they can do is take on a lot of the work that previously a recruiter would be doing, generating a Boolean search, plugging it in, even sorting through candidates, all of that type of work. Maybe it can do, in which case that does replace either a person or at least takes a significant chunk of a person's job, such that there's no need to necessarily, it changes your strategy as to what kind of headcount you need. And I like the point also you mentioned about the satisfaction on the first pass. So the agent might deliver the first thing and think that's job done, but all of us who've been in recruiting know that it's never the first results that actually make the difference. You got to go, even in the back in the day where you're going through like hundreds of pages on Google searches, the pagination, and you got to go the candidates found on page 76. So yeah, very, very interesting indeed. Okay. Same question for you, man. Like, where are we 6 months down? Like, it's moving fast, but where do you see the end of this year with agentic AI? Will we see basically an agent appear, or do you think that's still a little bit away?
I think we will see companies. I just got a meeting with a friend of mine here from Prague. They got a company called talentpilot.com, and they are already in some big banks here where they automated the final decision process. So imagine that you got, for example, 5 people really based on skills they are okay, and you need to decide which one to choose. So imagine that you got all the Gallup tests, all the psychodiagnostics, CVs, everything on all of your employees in the system, and then you take this external candidate and you are basically putting that against those teams or against that particular team where the person should be working and saying like, will that work or not? So I think these systems will be there, but in general, as you mentioned, I think still this year it will be still the Robo Sapiens. It will be still that there is a human in the loop working with that AI. But I think we can get even now when you can, for example, use some N8N or Make or Zapier. You can now easily connect it with any LLM, including DeepSeek, for example. There's nothing wrong about that to use it, for example, locally. And you can create something more automating, which is actually something like operator going to LinkedIn, seeing some results, and working that with that. So you can automate bigger chunks.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, Jose, listen, let me let you go. Wonderful to see you on the show as usual. Good luck with your stuff also in Czech. Hopefully, I'll come and Hungary. I understand you're going to Budapest in a bit. So yeah, hopefully we'll get the chance to see face to face in a little while. Seems like a little while since we caught up, so it'll be good to catch up, man.
See you, Jesse.
Very interesting. What's the vibe you're getting from this, Jesse? I'm getting the sense that, you know what, the answer is no. If we want to say AI agents in recruitment and HR right now, people are kind of that's the vibe I'm feeling. What are your thoughts?
I'm feeling like yes, and I think I think this really like true like autonomous doing it all on its own agentic like that's still far away. I think there are some automations, so workflow automations, and some agents that aren't really truly fully agents that autonomously work. We're going to see more and more of that come into business. So I think there's a step between like this automated doing it all and having to be really careful. I mean, compliance is always, we have to be careful with compliance, but I think there's even more so that we have to work on there before we get there. I think what we're going to see is more businesses start to use more of the automation power that is there, that is very strong, that people are not using. Like you said, some people don't even have an ATS yet. Some people don't have tech. So for me, I think that's where we're going to see the jump, is like this uptake in the technology that is strong right now, where the compliance is covered.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of companies that are going to wait until we have a big platform provider to roll it into us. But there's a few experimenters out there. I really fancy recruitment agencies being powerful here because they're going to be a little bit more gung-ho, a lot more agile. I think we're going to get the experimentation there. And then that's going to happen before internal TA, in my opinion. Anyway, we have Bill Fisher here. Bill, wonderful to see you, sir. How are you doing? Let's do a quick intro. Who are you? What it is you do?
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm Bill. So I run the product and engineering team at Vonk. So I've been working with AI ML in the space for a long time, so about 15 years. So I built a company, sold it to Dice. I kind of ran an R&D group there for a while, and back building AI ML tools in HR tech, and doing a lot of work with agents.
what's your take on the assessment of the panel so far? They've kind of been, all of them are kind of good users. They're quite technical users, but they're not builders per se. I would think all of them would agree that's the case, even the ones that have got software engineering experience. Their view is, look, these tools are there. We can actually do crazy advanced things, but they're not agents in the sense they are autonomous, learning by themselves and able to execute stuff simply like very similar to a coworker or a colleague. What's your take on this?
I think they're here. I think the agents are here. I think the agents are here. So we have them live. So we have them doing all of the top of the funnel kind of assessment, intake, scoring, interviewing. We've got programs live right now in Germany, Belgium, India. So they're using tools, they're making decisions, they're planning, they're reasoning, they're working together. So there's a handoff. So one of them will perform a task. It'll take the information it got from the task. When it completes the task, it goes to the operator, it hands it to the next agent, they do their task. But I'll tell you the secret sauce for us is we've been working with agents for a while. We did our first agents about a year ago. And then one of the first agents we ended up building is when we were sending an agent into the wild and they were going to the web, they would get the accept cookie prompt. And so we had to build an agent that would just accept the cookies. So we called it our cookie monster prompt. But what we learned from that is we felt we needed to build the application layer. So have an application layer that's purpose-built to work with AI agents. And that's how we were able to build this coordination and handoffs between the agents. So that was a real learning for us. And I think that's why we've had some success kind of getting these agents kind of working together.
Dumb it down for me about application layer. Like, what do you mean by that, and why is it significant to get agents working together? Why is the requirement for this application layer?
One of the things you see often is people have an ATS, and then they want to add AI applications on top of that, and so they end up with a co-pilot type approach, where they're just using they're kind of reaching out to ChatGPT just to augment some of the processes they're doing. And we built the entire back end for something like an ATS or a CRM that's powered with large language models. And I'll tell you I'm trying to think of an easy way. So we built our own parser. We built our own large language model parser. And the reason why we had to build our own is that it needs to be able to parse a CV, but it also needs to be able to parse a job description, and then needs to be able to parse all of the communications that people have with candidates, and it needs to extract it all to a common taxonomy. And so when you have this application layer, it's speaking the same language across all these different functions. And so that was just really key to us to be able to get this live.
And
do you understand that, Jesse?
Sorry. I mean, kind of, it makes sense. I mean, if you're just adding to something, you don't have the common base language that everything can then talk to each other and you can then bring the information along, which is what I understood. It's like chaining everything together in a way that can be understood, maybe, is what I took from that. Versus if you just tack things onto an existing, it's not all in the same, you can't chain it as easily and the information can't flow as easily because it's not breaking it down to the same base language or base connection point.
No, exactly. So
that's my non-technical summary.
No, that's great. So if you were using lots of different AI tools, you want all those tools to then, when they store data or save data, they need to structure it in the same way and put it in a common database so that all the other AI tools that are performing the function have access to that base.
So the foundations are they're working from the same foundational data source, more or less.
Yeah. So an example is we have an AI agent that does the intake for a candidate. So it'll look at but it has to have access to the job description. It needs to have access to the CV. It'll do a gap analysis. It'll ask a candidate for some more information. So can you pick up 20 kilos? Do you live within 30 miles of Paris? Do you have a Class B driver's license? And so it'll gather that information. But then when it goes to the interview agent also needs to have access to the job description, needs to have access to the CV, it needs to have access to that intake data, that new data. It'll then put together its own interview plan, its own assessment plan, conduct the interview, structure the interview, score the interview, put that back in a common database. So then the shortlist tool has access to all that information.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay,
That makes sense to me, at least to some degree.
I do. I think I get it. So basically, the parser is not necessarily AI at all. It's basically there simply to translate the data into, or structure the data into a common language that all the AI agents that you then they can basically feed off the same thing. So it becomes a lot more accurate. So yeah, I think that's right.
Bill, I've got a question about, so you're saying you've got agents working this whole like top of funnel kind of process. Is there any human quality assurance along the way? Do you have AI doing quality assurance on AI? Do you have any checks? Like, how do you keep it that there's no, that it's doing what it should do all on its own? And how do you, that's one question. And the other question is, how does the team find it? Like, how are people accepting that within the business and the candidates accepting that?
Cool. So we're getting good acceptance with candidates using, like for example, the AI interview. They treat it like a normal interview. We are seeing some people cheating, and using AI on the interview. My only objection there is when they cheat poorly. So you'll see somebody who is speaking, kind of, there's a lot of hesitation when they're speaking, and you can see that in the transcript. And then all of a sudden they have perfectly well-formed paragraphs where they articulate skills, and it just doesn't read like the rest of the interview. And then when we have hiring managers kind of reviewing the assessments from the AI, and even reviewing the transcripts, we get feedback like the feedback they would provide to a junior recruiter, which is like, at Microsoft, we don't say we when we talk about the company. Or they'll say like, the AI agent can't introduce themselves as Jenny from Taco Bell because it doesn't technically work for Taco Bell. Or we're getting too many non-qualified candidates are making it through the assessment. So we need to have a tougher interview process. So we just kind of work with the hiring managers and the recruitment teams at companies just to kind of do these refinements as we go. I'll post a video if somebody wants to see what 6 of these agents kind of working together doing the assessment looks like.
How do they interact with your recruitment team? Like, how does that work with, like you said, people are still obviously, hiring managers going in, reading transcripts. How do you interact the agent flows with the day-to-day people in the team? Because I think that's what everyone wants to know. Like, if we're going to have this in business and we can get all these benefits, where's the human bit? Where are the people? What are the people's jobs now? How does that work?
Cool. So we have an AI tool that'll build a job description, but obviously a human needs to review that. We have an AI agent that puts together a media plan, and budget, but the recruiter needs to sign off on that. And then for the kind of the assessment, and interviewing, at the end of that process, we provide, you just think of it as a PDF that has our assessment. To comply with the EU AI Act, all of the scoring we do has to be explainable and transparent so they can see how each of the scores were derived for each of the candidates. And then they can just, one of the projects we did is we looked at current employees of that company just to level set that against how we were evaluating the intake. And so we get feedback on that, and then we can adjust some of the weightings, making sure we're evaluating the right vectors for each of those candidates. So it sounds rather complex. It's not as complex as it sounds. We try to make it very easy for the teams. I'll post a video just so everyone can see what this.
How long is the video?
1 second. 12 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's too long. Yeah, post the link into the chat, and then people can browse at that as they see fit. So okay, the YouTube's down there, folks. Do consume that and take a look. See, Bill, let me ask you the direction of travel question. 6 months down the line, obviously this is accelerating fast. Where do you see agentic AI agents in recruitment and HR? Turn of the year, let's say, 2026. What's happening?
The way I think about it is, I think ATSs will persist. So I think the ATS still survives. But when you look at an ATS, one of the things they do, you think about the marketplace function of an ATS, and you'll see that an ATS might have 400 different vendors in that marketplace. And each of those vendors need to be, are essential for the ATS to provide that huge array of services. And my belief is that each of those point solutions, because it's easier now to build tools, like with things like Replit, that an ATS will start to replicate their own marketplace within the ATS, and all of those apps will read native within the ATS. So that's my belief for the direction of travel is that for their compliance reasons, their permission reasons, their continuity reasons, that a system of record will persist. But that entire ecosystem of these other services will get built natively into that ATS. So that's our guess on where it goes.
Yeah, buy or build scenario, I think, for ATSs generally, isn't it? They've got they see the opportunity to build it, but sometimes better to buy it as well. And we might see point solutions, and we have seen point solutions start building ATS-like functions, so they're growing into that type of scenario as well to be a bit stickier. So very interesting indeed. Okay, Bill, listen, I got to let you go. I'm going to try and bring on Shimao. I think he's still there. I hope he is. I think he's our last guest. So, Bill Fisher, great to see you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and enthusiasm. Jesse, thanks for hanging on. This is it can be a bit exhausting, I know, because it's like you're on screen for ages.
I love this topic, so it's great.
It's been very interesting, hasn't it? And I like the general balance of conversation. It's like, it would be great to get everyone on screen to debate it, but I think that would require at least another 2 hours, so we don't have time for that.
Can we do a follow-up debate? Can we do a debate special?
Maybe we should. I mean, folks, let me know in the comments whether you want us to see that. We're cycling through sort of expertise here, which is one technique to do it. But if you're interested in having a kind of a conversation with us, then sort of a debate style, then maybe we could do that as well. I have a feeling Shimao's had to disappear, which is totally fine because we're well over time. Yeah, he's got a hard stop. No worries. My fault, Shimao. I apologize. We'll have to get you back another time. I think that more or less closes off the show for us, folks. So I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Agentic. Oh, something's happened here. Shimao, listen, you said you had a hard stop. I feel guilty now. What have you cancelled in order to come on?
It's fine. It's fine. If we can take 5 minutes, I'll take 5 minutes.
5 minutes only, because this guy's got something to do. Shimao, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What is you do?
Sure. I'm head of AI at Talent Protocol. Basically, everything AI is under my responsibility here at Talent. And I find this really interesting because just in your last newsletter, Hungly, you shared something about how skills-based recruiting was sort of out of vogue, out of fashion. At Talent, what we do in specific is we try to create a new layer of data about builders, people who are creating stuff, people who are software developers, marketeers, etc., that focuses specifically on verifiable skills information. So, for example, how can we ensure that someone who says they're a senior developer is responsible for building the projects that they say they've been building over the years? So sort of a totally different approach to talent and to recruitment and to talent data and reputation data than what, for example, something like LinkedIn offers. And our approach to AI agents and AI in general is maybe not so much from the application or from the interface perspective up until this point, but more so, how can we build the guidelines or the railways so that our systems, our interfaces can operate on verifiable information and do it from an agentic or an AI perspective. And in that sense, over the past few months, we've been experimenting specifically with the use case of talent sourcing. So the beginning of the funnel. I'm not an HR guy myself. I've been a developer for all of my career. So some of these terms are new to me, or at least they don't exactly exist in my lexical. But from our perspective, and even from the perspective of talent protocol and indexing information about these builders, the largest opportunity in the sense of talent sourcing is how do we reach more people and how do we get them to connect more accounts to our platform so that we can then index their own information. And talent sourcing is sort of that, but from the perspective of then hiring them for a project. And so we created an AI agent that uses our data, talent protocol information, and the builder score to understand if the people that it's interacting with are, on the one hand, who they say they are, and then on the other, the right people for the project that this agent is sourcing from. We ran limited experiments so far, but the first one that we did, we had a client of ours who was looking for a software developer to build a website for a specific project. We had our agent post something about this on a social network, and then we requested that people interacted with it, and we gave them a small incentive to do so in order to find these profiles that could have been relevant for this specific job role. People interacted over a couple of days, and then in the end, the agent itself, when it decided that it had enough applicants, reviewed their application, reviewed their talent profile, reviewed their builder score, and decided whether one of them was the right candidate for this specific job role. In fact, one of them was, and so then the agent put them in touch with the team that was behind the project, and then hands off to them. They can do the rest of the flow, and they can decide if this candidate is right for them. But for talent, for us, the really interesting part is how do we create the right data? How do we gather the right information about these builders, about these applicants, and then how can we include it back into our protocol?
This immediately tells me that it'd be really useful as an internal mobility tool as well, because if you're having a situation, for instance, where let's say you already have acquired the candidates, so in other words, the people that you have that you're setting the agent to have a conversation with, you already have consistent data on. You don't have to kind of get more, like let's send your CV in or whatever it is. You already have talent score, for instance. That would be very, very useful, I think, for a large scale company that has loads of people floating around that could be viable for that role. So very, very interesting. Right now, I think that's still done by job boards, like internal job boards. You post a job and you just hope someone sees it. But actually, what needs to happen is that you need an active agent to go and source candidates in there and notify them and say, hey, there's an opportunity. Are you interested? We don't want to ask people who are busy to do additional work to then discover a job opportunity or a project opportunity that they may not be in their minds. Like, we don't think about new opportunities every single second of the day, other than when we are looking for work as the primary objective. Most of us aren't doing that if you're in work already. So I think this would be very good on the passive side. Okay, someone's talked about white collar work. I think this is a totally separate topic, but it's worth introducing here. Probably worth, actually, no, let's talk about this, Shamal. Talent protocol and the idea of sort of quantifying capabilities. Currently, that's sort of focused on certain types of sectors and certain types of job roles, as you mentioned, digital type work. Do you see it like expanding beyond the digital side into blue collar, or do you think actually no, it's going to generally always be more effective for people that are working with knowledge, digital information?
As you say, the first real target that us at Talent Protocol are facing are software developers, in particular, blockchain software developers. That's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we are a crypto company, so we're a blockchain company. We've been operating in that sector for a while, so that's what we're familiar with. That's who our own employees are. That's who we are in essence. So that was the easiest layer of people to target within our protocol. The next layer, which is what we're starting off now to focus on, are software developers in general. You've got platforms like GitHub or GitLab or the other sort of social code repository hubs that you can index verifiable information from. But that's the concept of verifiable information. That's really where the bottleneck is. So in essence, for us to target other sorts of job categories, job roles, blue collar workers, you would have to find sources of verifiable information for them, which is not impossible. There's always ways to do that. For example, a great source of information where you can ascertain whether a person works for a company or not is to verify their company email, their corporate company email address, for example, just to understand if a person actually works where they say they do. But that's only a first step. For us to decide whether a person has the skills that they do have, we would have to look at how do we include certification engines into our protocol? How do we integrate with other companies who are verifying these people's skills? But all of that is possible. It just takes a lot of work. So we're targeting the easy wins first, scaling as large as we can within these sectors, and then moving on to the next. By the way,
very interesting.
Just as a key metric, we have close to 10 million software developers indexed on our platform. So it's growing quite large and quite fast. This all happened within the last about a year.
Yeah, and I think there's another interesting angle here, Samar, which we don't have time to get into, but obviously with, related to what Jesse was talking about earlier, like, okay, we have AI-enabled candidates, we have AI-enabled employees, that's where we're all going to be. I see you're looking at the watch, Samar, so I'll be real quick. AI, but how do we actually determine who is the great talent that we want bringing in our team? We might want to figure out how good this person is without all of the AI support, and that's something that's going to be interesting. Maybe some sort of blockchain verification is a way to do that as well. Okay, listen, we've got to leave it there. Shamal, really thank you for hanging on and jumping in and also interrupting your day to hang on with us. Really interesting to get your perspective on this. Do check out Talent Protocol, folks. Really exciting product. Okay, that is it. We are got to finish. This is a record long show. Jesse, before we let you go, like, what do you think so far? What have you learned from this conversation? What have you found it dispiriting? Have you found it inspiring?
I found it really interesting. I think what it showed is that there is a debate, right? There is a debate. People think differently on the topic. There is still things we don't know enough about and things that aren't progressed enough and mature enough. But I don't think that should be discouraging. I still think I'm very optimistic on this topic. I think that we will find, where there was a will, there's a way. And I love experimenting. I think businesses will start to experiment more and more. And I'm excited to see what comes. By the end of the year, I think I'm more on like the Bill side of things. I think what he said, I'm more on that pathway. But I think businesses will definitely start to adopt somehow. They're going to start bringing stuff in. I think they're going to use their core ATSs. They're going to start either building in or buying. I think we're going to see consolidation. It's going to be really interesting. I'm just interested to see what kind of tech is out there already, because I think there's a lot out there that we just don't know about. So I'm going to start collecting more and more AI tools, especially in recruitment space, and adding them to the database so people can find them.
There's no need for this, folks, because there's going to be revelations coming on Brainfood Live over the next couple of weeks. Let me tell you this. We have got some of the leading players in the recruitment space. And I'm talking about tools that obviously everyone uses every day. But they're going to come on the show and they're going to tell us about where they're at with AI agents. And this is going to be big news. I can't quite mention names right as of yet, but you could probably guess who they may be. And it's going to be very exciting to show. There's basically people are going to say, okay, here's an agent and this is how it's going to work. So follow the channel if you want to keep notified on those types of shows. They'll be coming up next 6 weeks. And I'm really pumped to get to this point with those companies. So it's going to be very exciting. Other than that, folks, we've got to let it go. It's late for everyone. It's also Valentine's Day, so everyone's got dates to go on. If you don't have a date, I'm there with you spiritually, folks. It's all good. Don't worry about it. And we'll be back next week. We're going to be talking about productivity report. We've got our friends at Ashby. They produce some of the best reports out there in terms of where we're at with the recruitment world. They've got a talent productivity report coming out, and we're going to run through that forensically to say, okay, here is how companies are gaining efficiency in different parts of the recruiting funnel. Make sure you sign up for that. It's up and running. Let's check what time it is. I think it's also at a weird time. Okay, I've got it as 9 p.m. here, which probably is sometime. What is it? When is it? It's probably 1 o'clock. 1 p.m. UK, isn't it? So that's probably when it is. Make sure you check that out, and then we'll pick it up from there. Okay, that's it. See you later, folks. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
How was that, Jess? Was that all right?
That was great. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
I thought
that was fun.
I thought you were really good. You got a very good voice for this.
Oh, do I? That's good. I was
You
like,
do.
what should I say and when should I say it? I was like, whatever, I'm just going to say it.
No, the only thing I would say to you is that you should interrupt me more and interrupt them more. But you'll
I didn't
get
want to
better
be
with that.
rude.
Nah, you
And I
are
wasn't
rude,
sure
though,
how
so
much
it's
you
fine.
wanted me to talk because I knew we were behind, right? So I also didn't want to interrupt people too much because I was like, shit, we're really behind on time.
I know, but I was going to text you as well, but then I
You're
realized you
still
probably get
live.
distracted by text.
Hung, you're
Are we
still
really?
live.
That's all
Apparently.
right. This is how it works. It's behind the scenes, extra footage. It's
See,
all good.
everyone's just. You both have great voice. Thank you, Nuno. That's really kind.
Do you know what? I need a voice coach. That's true. I need
Should
a
I have
voice coach.
interrupted
You
Hung more,
sound
everyone? That's what we want to know. Should Jesse have like cut in more? Should I have been hard hitting?
get
Yes,
hung
it was
off
like
the show. It was
like,
straight in there with no ambiguity. Oh,
I was trying to let everyone speak and like
Nuno
listen to them. I was
Lopez,
really
not
interested
only
in what
with a
everyone had
yes,
to
but
say.
a caps lock yes as well. Oh God. Right. There we go. All right. Listen,
We've
I'll let
learned
you
something.
go because you've definitely got date night, haven't you? So enjoy Valentine's Day.
I have a date with my lovely 20-month-old son who wants me to put him to nap time now because no one else can possibly do that but mummy. So I'm going to go do that and hopefully see my husband who is working from home and hopefully he's available to say hi. Let's see.
You'll have a very good time with those gents.
Yeah.
So listen, thanks for
Thanks.
joining. You've been great.
so much,
We'll get you back if you've enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me,
We'll pick it up from there, okay?
How do I get out of here?
All right.
All
See you
right, I'm
later.
leaving. Bye.
All right, I've kicked her off. Sorry, surreptitiously. Sorry, Jess. All right, listen, that's it. I'm out.